The sun was slowly beginning to set, brushing the evening sky with deep shades of orange and violet, spreading a warm, peaceful glow across the calm suburban streets of Meadow Creek. For Marcus Thorne, it was one of those rare moments when life felt still. The perfectly trimmed lawns and rows of nearly identical houses felt worlds apart from the danger and chaos of his real profession. To everyone in the neighborhood, he was simply Marcus, the quiet man who lived alone in the corner house and mostly kept to himself. Nobody had the slightest idea that this reserved and ordinary-looking neighbor was actually Special Agent Marcus Thorne, one of the FBI's most respected, dangerous, and in certain circles, deeply feared operatives. He stood inside his garage, carefully polishing his vintage motorcycle, the chrome reflecting under the dim glow of a single hanging light bulb. This was his escape, his private place of calm where he could disconnect from the relentless pressure of federal investigations and high-risk operations. The steady rhythm of the cloth moving across polished metal was suddenly broken by a loud, aggressive pounding at his front door. It wasn't the casual knock of a friendly neighbor dropping by. It was forceful, demanding, and impatient. Marcus let out a slow sigh and wiped his hands on an old rag before walking through the house toward the front entrance. He looked through the peephole. Standing on his porch were two men wearing badly fitted navy blue uniforms with the words Meadow Creek HOA Patrol awkwardly stitched across their chests. They looked less like legitimate officials and more like actors from a cheap security movie. One of them was tall and thin, carrying a nervous kind of restless energy. The other was shorter, broader, and had the kind of face that looked like it had been stuck in a permanent scowl for years. Marcus opened the door only slightly, keeping the chain engaged. "Can I help you?" The shorter man, whose name tag read Red Miller, puffed up his chest like he was trying too hard to appear important. "Sir, we've received multiple complaints regarding unauthorized modifications to your property." He gestured vaguely toward the side of Marcus's house, apparently referring to the supposed installation of a non-compliant satellite dish. Marcus raised an eyebrow. He didn't own a satellite dish. "I think you got the wrong house," Marcus said evenly. "I don't have a satellite dish." "Don't play dumb with us," Miller snapped, his voice louder than necessary. "We have the authority to inspect your property. We need to come inside." The taller man, Jenkins, shifted awkwardly beside him, his hand hovering nervously near a cheap-looking plastic baton clipped to his belt. The entire situation felt wrong. Marcus had spent years dealing with every kind of fraud, scam, and criminal deception imaginable, from petty con artists to highly trained spies. These two were clearly amateurs, but even amateurs could be dangerous. "You're not coming into my house," Marcus said calmly, but there was steel behind his words. "The HOA has no authority to enter private property without permission or a warrant, and you are definitely not law enforcement." Miller scoffed. "We are the enforcement division of the Homeowners Association. Your bylaws allow us to conduct inspections for compliance. Now, are you going to cooperate, or are we going to do this the hard way?" Marcus felt years of professional training quietly take over. He studied their posture, the poor quality of their uniforms, the nervous way Jenkins refused to make eye contact. They were fake. That much was obvious. The real question was why. Were they simple burglars using HOA uniforms as a trick, or was there something bigger behind this? "Let me see your identification," Marcus said, and now his voice had changed. The quiet neighbor disappeared. The authority he carried every single day stepped forward. Miller gave a smug grin and flashed a laminated card, so quickly it was impossible to actually read anything on it. Satisfied? "Now step aside." He placed his hand on the door and tried to push it open. That was the moment he crossed the line. In one smooth motion, Marcus threw the door open hard, using its momentum to knock Miller off balance. As Miller stumbled backward, Marcus stepped onto the porch, and suddenly his entire presence seemed to dominate the space. He moved with such speed and precision that both men froze in total surprise. Before Jenkins could even think about grabbing his baton, Marcus was already there. He seized Jenkins's wrist, twisted it into a practice lock, and slammed him firmly against the side of the house. Jenkins cried out in pain as the plastic baton fell and clattered across the porch. Miller regained his balance and stared in shock, fumbling for his own weapon, but he was already too late. Marcus was on him instantly. A fast, Precise strike to Miller's shoulder sent pain shooting through his arm, forcing him to drop the baton. Marcus spun him around and pinned both his arms behind his back with effortless control. "You have the right to remain silent," Marcus said, his voice low, cold, and unmistakably threatening as he held both men completely helpless. He reached down, grabbed the cheap zip ties hanging from their own belts, and secured their hands behind them. "I strongly suggest you use that right." Who are you?" Miller stammered, his face pale with fear and disbelief. The arrogant fake officer was gone now, replaced by pure panic. Marcus calmly reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet. He flipped it open. Inside was the unmistakable gold badge and official credentials of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. "Special Agent Marcus Thorne," he said, giving them plenty of time to understand exactly how badly they had messed up. "And both of you are under arrest for impersonating law enforcement, attempted burglary, and assault." The color completely drained from their faces. They hadn't simply chosen the wrong house. They had chosen the one house in the entire state, maybe even the entire country, they absolutely should have avoided. The truth hit them all at once. They hadn't tried to intimidate some quiet suburban homeowner. They had attempted to strong-arm one of the most feared men in federal law enforcement. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Marcus had silently triggered his home security alarm the moment they tried forcing the door. Neighbors started peeking through blinds and stepping onto porches. They saw two fake HOA officers zip-tied on the ground and the quiet man from the corner house, standing over them with complete control and absolute calm. When local police arrived, their expressions shifted immediately as they recognized Agent Thorne. The explanation was short, clear, and professional. The two imposters were taken away in handcuffs, their pathetic little crime spree ending in complete humiliation. Later that evening, as the neighborhood slowly returned to its usual peaceful silence, Marcus stood on his front porch with a glass of water in hand. A few neighbors offered small, uncertain, but respectful waves. They didn't know the full story, but they knew enough to understand that something serious had happened. They looked at him differently now, with a mix of curiosity, respect, and quiet awe. Marcus simply nodded back. His peace had been interrupted, but order had been restored. The quiet man in the corner house had reminded two criminals, and maybe the entire neighborhood, that appearances can be deceiving. He took one final look down the peaceful street before stepping back inside. Tomorrow, he would return to the world of shadows, danger, and secrets. But tonight, his home was safe. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next one.